Tonight's species is one of Florida's offshore favorites. With a limited season, this fish gets a lot of attention. Due to conservation and regulations, its numbers have rebounded beyond belief. Tonight, it's all about the red snappers here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
You're watching the Florida Insider Fishing Report, and this week we're fishing you through the 4th of July weekend and staying patriotic with the most appropriate species, red snapper. Right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Brie. But you know, not only is it the 4th of July weekend, but it's a milestone in your life, young Brie.
It is.
It is actually going to be your 30th birthday, and look at how we've dressed you up
cute.
with some red snappers caught with Mike Avanon.
Cute.
As well as,
my Lord.
Snuck some
How did you
young
find those
pictures in there. Look at those ponytails. And
Spice
certainly
Girls.
your fishing life that started back in 2015 with us.
Yes.
Or 14, I'm sorry. And then your life with your handsome husband and beautiful daughter. Wow, what a couple.
Oh my goodness.
Happy
I
birthday,
cannot
Brie.
believe. Thank you.
4th of July, baby. The fireworks have been going off for 30 years, ladies and gentlemen. Right
Yes, they have. How did you find those pictures?
here. No telling.
Oh my goodness.
I have my sources.
Obviously. Okay, well, I'm excited for the weekend ahead, but not as excited as Dave is to have a special guest in the house. He gets to chat with at the CCA workbench, right, Dave?
That's right. Got Mike Avanon here. He's the guy who gave Rick all those pictures. That's how freaky it is.
Okay.
What? How did he get all that?
He's the special source.
Yeah, I'm
Wow.
just trying to be creepy.
That's wonderful. I don't
did a
think
good job.
accomplished.
I think we'll never know. That's scary.
Let's go.
Okay, let's take the party and start our 4th of July weekend in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region with Captain Jeff Hageman, who's definitely got some America Red. Hey, Hag.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
And yes, we do have red snapper throughout my entire region. We have a ton of them. No shortages here at all. Anywhere from 70 to 300 feet of water over any high relief structure such as rock piles, reefs, wrecks, pinfish, cut sardines, squid, all great baits. They'll work really good. Knocker rig's my favorite, but you can use a standard bottom rig if you want to. They're not picky eaters. They're usually in huge schools. The bigger fish usually tend to be on top of the smaller fish, so adjust your bait with your bottom machine to get those bigger fish. And remember to have a vent tool handy to release those unwanted fish, because most of the time you're going to be catching them in depths where they're going to need to be vented. I've got a photo here of what your bottom machine should look like after you catch one or two. They'll start raising up off the bottom, you can see in the picture. And that's what they come up to, and they can actually come up right to the top of the water. You can start chumming them with live baits and get them eating on top, too. And I've also got another great photo of a nice American Red.
Nice, Hag. All right, what else you got for us offshore?
The gag grouper bite's been really, really good right now in that 80 to 270 feet of water over rock piles, ledges. Start out fishing with cut bait, get the fish fired up, cut sardines, whole Boston mackerel. When they start slowing down, switch to live baits, live pinfish, live grunts, or pigfish. We'll get them fired back up again. The limit's been fairly easy to obtain. And remember, as the summer gets hotter, the fish are going to move deeper. And I've got 2 great photos of some nice West Coast gags.
Looking good, Hag.
Right there.
That's a nice looking fish, man. All right. All right, let's go inshore, bub.
Captain Mario Costello, Talateo Charters at a plantation inn on Crystal River, reports a good redfish bite right now around the Mangrove Islands and Keys from Crystal River to Homosassa. He's working the Mangrove Islands and sandy potholes that are off the island just past that low tide. He's working those areas that are still going to have water on those and those sandy potholes. He's using both pinfish and live select shrimp, free line on a 4-aught circle hook. The bigger redfish have been coming on the pinfish. The slot-sized redfish have been cutting on the shrimp. And right now they've been averaging anywhere from 20 to 32 inches. Captain John Lane of JB Charters out of Apalachicola reports the bull redfish have been running, but they've been a little slow right now. You want to fish around the passes on the flip of the tide. The bite's been best using live greenbacks with a 2-aught circle hook and 3/4 ounces of lead. 10 to 12 inches of 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Captain Jimbo Keith, the saltwater assassin fishing charters, the Cedar Key, reports the redfish bite right now has been best with the incoming tide around the islands. Gold spoons, swim baits, working better than cut bait right now, he says. Bass Assassin Little Boss rigged on a quarter-ounce Bass Assassin jig head is hard to beat. And the snook bite, Captain Jimmy Huddleston of CaptainHud.com reports the snook bite right now out of Ozona has been going off. Best feeding right now on the switch of the tides when the water starts moving quickly. They're ambushing baits right along the bottom. Finfish, croakers. You want to use a 2-ounce slip sinker. When the tide starts running a little harder, work the rock jetties. Beach points have been most productive, and a 40-pound fluorocarbon leader is needed right now to keep you from getting broke off. And the snooker holding to that structure, so you got to be pretty tight to it. And also, I'd like to mention the CCA yesterday just started the Star Tournament. You still got plenty of chances to win that $500,000 in cash and prizes, and they do a great job with this. Everybody can get involved all around the state. Lots of prizes to be won and lots of fish to be caught.
All right, Bub, thank you so much. It's time to take a look at the Alta equipment hotspots from the Northwest region. Hag says that inshore, tarpon along the beaches and the passes and grass flats use pinfish, crabs, and threadfin herring free-lined or corked for bait, and then offshore gag groupers on the rock piles and ledges in 75 to 130 feet of water using pinfish, pigfish for bait on a standard bottom rig. Right, Brie?
Absolutely, Rick. I think it's time for a little face-to-face, so let's get Captain Jim Ross on Zoom and see what we can get excited about this Independence Day weekend in the Bell Central East region. Hey, Jim.
Hey, happy birthday, Brie, and happy 4th of July, and happy birthday to this country. You know, here in the East Central region of the state, we've been granted 4 days this year to go out and legally catch red snapper in federal waters. And everybody's going to be getting out there, you know, on the Atlantic coast that has a boat that's big enough to float. In our local scales region, most of the fish are in about 60 feet of water out to about 250 feet of water. And our largest snapper, those above 20 pounds, are typically found throughout the entire depth range, but they're best if you're fishing on the structures outside of 120 foot. Almost any live or frozen bait, including squid, will get a snapper strike, and you can catch them on vertical jigs as well. Now, with such a short season, only 4 days, it's very important that, you know, everybody that owns a boat is going to be trying to get out there to get their one snapper allotment during this thing. But please be courteous out there. If you're fishing a piece of wreck or a high relief piece of structure like a piece of reef, and there's other boats that are trying to do the same, it's generally considered better form to drift across that than it is to spot lock on it. I know that there's a huge number of guys out there that have trolling motors on their boats now, but to take your Rodan out there and kind of spot lock right in the middle of everybody's drift is kind of considered bad form. So if you're the only one there, by all means, go right ahead. But if there's multiple boats trying to work a piece of structure, be courteous, and that way everybody else can get a red snapper for themselves.
That's right.
And I've got a picture here of Don Petrucci with a typical size red snapper that we catch in the 60 to 80 foot zones. We caught this one on a jig, fishing over a little piece of a wreck with a live pogie tipped on it. And then our second species is king mackerel, and they've been really good the last couple of days. The high bar and the pines out of Sebastian, 8A and Pelican Flats out of Port Canaveral, and just about all of the wrecks and reefs that are in the 15 to 20 mile zone outside of ponds have been really good places this week. Now, a sea witch and strip combo or a live or frozen bait on a wire stinger rig are the two best ways to get them. They're also hitting lip diving plugs first thing in the morning, especially those that run about 10 to 30 feet deep, because in the morning they're typically feeding a little higher in the water column. So you don't need those ones that run super deep like those 40 footers. You can also get some bigger fish around the Canaveral buoy line. Most of the fish in the region are running 12 to 18 pounds, but a lot of the fish right now are scaling over 30 pounds. And I've got one that Don Petrucci brought his daughter Alyssa out with me the other day, and we got this beautiful king mackerel. And doesn't it look like it's got fireworks on its belly? It's just absolutely glistening with the reflection coming off of that kingfish's belly.
Yeah.
And then I've got a second photo. Jim Eager brought his granddaughter out. This is a great weekend to bring kids out on the water, guys and gals. So, if you've got grandkids or kids, get them out on the water. She's got a fantastic little barracuda. That was the first fish that she'd ever caught in salt water, the first time she'd ever been in the ocean. And she was so happy about that thing. She was jumping up and down, high-fiving, turning cartwheels. It was a lot of fun to have her on the boat. Now, swinging inshore, Rick, one of your favorite species and one of my favorite species, tarpon. The silver kings are here, and we've got them through the Indian River and Mesquite Lagoon and all up and down the nearshore waters along our beaches. Small flies that imitate glass minnows or baby ballyhoo or needlefish are working really good. You can also use a shrimp or crab type imitation as well in the backwaters. The liver cut pogies, pilchards, greenies are all great choices, obviously, if you want to use them on a circle hook. And a buddy of mine, Bryson Wright, here recently had 12 hookups on an afternoon trip using live pogies just north of Sebastian Inlet. And he said most of those tarpon were running 60 to 90 pounds. So that's a pretty nice hookup ratio right there. Now, my last species is mangrove snapper. And we usually talk about mangrove snapper in our offshore segment. And we got plenty of them out there on the reefs and wrecks right now. But here's what you can do. The kids this weekend, get them out. The deep water docks, piers, bridge pilings, causeways, anything where there's structure, any kind of hard structure like that, you're going to find mangrove snapper around it. It's super easy to catch them. Just use a small piece of shrimp on about a 1/0 size circle hook. And, most of those snapper are just going to kind of peck at it, and then they're going to get a good bite out of it. And, most of our snapper, even the inshore snapper, are running like 8 to 14 inches right now. So we've got some really nice ones in the lagoon system. And I've got a nice little picture here. Once again, Leslie brought her son Owen out for his birthday on a mangrove snapper trip. And my son took them out the other day here in Rockledge, and they got this nice little mangrove snapper off of one of those little docks that we were talking about.
All right, Jim, man, you're looking good, dude. Thank you. Hope you have a great, safe 4th of July, and look forward to speaking to you next week. But it is time for the Rodan hotspots from the Central East region. The Rodan Marine hotspots are inshore, tarpon along the beaches and the lagoons. Use live or cut pogie, sardines, mullet, or other fresh large bait fish on a 7 to 8/0 size circle hook. And then offshore, king mackerel on all the area reefs. Slow troll with live baits on a wire stinger rig.
There have been so many photos coming in with kids. I love it. They're out there fishing. Some of them for the first time. Their smiles are like this big. It makes me so happy.
As you know, the next generation of anglers, here they come.
Absolutely. All right, the Garmin Panhandle region is coming at us next with some red snapper catches that will blow your mind. But first, we have Dave Farrell and Captain Mike Avanon, who are about to blow our minds at the CCA workbench for rigs and techniques.
Mind blown.
Mind blown.
Yes, he's gonna tell us how to find those good spots, which is 90% of the battle.
It is finding the fish. Yep.
Find the fish. Be back.
Can't catch them if you can't find them.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Contender Boats, always in the game. Noble Air Charters, raising the bar yet again. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Sirius XM Marine, weather, fishing info, and channel surfing. And Daiquiri Deck, Sarasota's favorite place to meet.
Reliability. Yamaha is legendary for it. But it's more than a legend. It's something boaters have come to value. Why? Because it's rare. Because in this fast-paced, single-use world, few things are built to last. So when we find something that is, we hold on for dear life, to friendships, to traditions, to outboards. Because it's the lucky few who get to spend as much time on the water as they'd like. The rest of us, we look forward to those precious few days. That makes every second sacred. Every moment mean that much more. And it drives us to wring the most of every minute we get on the water, having incredible adventures, fighting the fish, making unforgettable memories. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
What started in the flats and bays has migrated offshore. GPS-guided trolling motor technology has moved to boats in the 35-plus foot class. and allowed anchoring capabilities on most center consoles in any depth of water. From snook and redfish inshore to grouper and swordfish way out deep, Rodan Marine Systems has a GPS anchor to hold your vessel on location. Set it, forget it, catch more fish.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wine is perfect for any surf challenge. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
Well, we're here at the CCA workbench for the Academy Outdoors and Rigs and Techniques.
Yes.
And you know, Dave, Mike Avenon's one of our experts that we do a lot of Sportsman's Adventures with. And you know, Mike, red snapper certainly is one of your expertise besides grouper fishing. So why don't you tell us to start off, how do you find these
Well,
fish?
it's one of my favorite fish to catch by far. We got a real short season, 2 months, but the easiest way to look for those fish, and the way I like to look for them, is you can troll around a little bit looking for new areas. The biggest mistake that guys make is they want to go right back to the same spot every time. Oh, you know what? The fish are getting smaller. There's no fish there after a while. Well, guess what? You killed them all. It's time to look for some new spots. And the way you can look for those new spots is to put 2 lines out, something simple, 2 feathers, whatever, and troll around a little bit. Or even just spend 30 minutes looking at your bottom machine at the beginning of the day. And what you're looking for is fish up in the water, which would be those nice red stripes, or the red pile. The red pile is always the easiest one to find because it marks up real big in the water. Anything that's 5, 10, 15 feet off the water. And when I say
Off the bottom.
Off the bottom, sorry. You want it to touch the bottom. If it's not touching the bottom, the fish aren't feeding on them. The fish aren't there. That's the key.
Really?
You want to make sure that red is tight to the bottom, but red on the bottom and you're all set as far as finding the fish.
But if there's a gap under there, they're probably not being eaten.
They're not being eaten because they're up moving around.
I gotcha.
So in other words, everything's pressed down nice and tight to the bottom when you see that red on the bottom machine. And that's always a good indicator. Another good indicator is not only do you see the red tight to the bottom, but you also see individual fish swimming around the pile. That's the same scenario. That bait fish is being fed on, and it's a great place to start.
So Mike, you know, I used to fish with Ralph Delf down in Keys, and one of the things that I learned from him was whenever you wanted to catch a fish on artificial, that when you first get to the spot, that's when you'd want to introduce the artificial. So do you agree with that?
I do, actually, and it seems like the bigger fish are usually aggressive. There's 2 ways that those things will bite. Either the big fish are going to bite first because they're the bully, he's ready to get out of my way, it's mine, I'm going to eat it. And if you're firing down a jig like this, obviously in the beginning of that bite, it's going to be the best opportunity to get that bigger fish.
Yeah, so I mean, one of my favorite ways to catch groupers and snappers because of the plug rod is to drop a big heavy jig, tip it with a piece of fish bites. The aggressive fish, as you said, are going to bite that first. So once you introduce bait, then it's a little bit of a different story.
And the cool thing about the fish bites is it's tough.
Yeah.
You can miss him 2-3 times, they're not going to tear it off, whereas like a piece of squid, he's going to knock it right off the hook. You get 2 or 3 different shots with this.
Now, I've used big baits before, mainly on the East Coast where I live because we're out in pretty deep water. Usually we start fishing in 90 feet and out to 200 or whatever. But a lot of times when I'm trying to catch a big red snapper, I use a big bait. Because the last one I caught was a really big one that I caught on a whole Alamaco jack that I just butterflied. I was actually trying to catch a grouper, but a giant red snapper ate it. And what was the key to that is we were getting a lot of little ticky bites.
Sure, yep.
And I could feel them ticky biting on that big bait. And what that does is that draws attention. And when that big bait is down there and all those little ones are chewing on it, that'll get the eyeball of the big one. And that's exactly what happened in that instance. A big red snapper saw those little ones chewing on the bigger bait and came and ate the big bait.
So like he said, there's 2 bites, right? You can catch the big ones on the jig to start, but if you're in that other type of bite where it takes a little while to get them going, you can use the squid on the chicken rig to initiate the bite.
What size hook?
I like to start with a 9.0.
9.0.
Unless the fish are finicky, then you can go down to like a 6.0 or a 7.0. But I always like to start with a 9.0, 80-pound fluorocarbon leader. And if you're not getting the bite, you can downsize your tackle to get the bite if the fish are a little bit finicky.
And you're using a circle hook, obviously.
Always, yes.
Always.
And with the chicken rig, lead right on the bottom, it works really well. But we'll start it with the squid to get the fish biting. And then once we get them worked up a little bit, we'll fire down a live bait like a pinfish or a blue runner, something that's big and hardy that those little fish can knock around a little bit, but the bigger fish can eat.
Now, do you when you put down the live bait, do you use a knocker rig or do you put those on?
Right on the chicken rig. We always fish a chicken rig, yeah. It's super beneficial.
And you put 2 live baits or 3 live baits?
Just one live bait. Actually, a chicken rig I'm talking about is more of a dropper rig that's lead on the bottom, the hook above it.
Right.
And it's like I've said 100 times before, with that chicken rig, you're leaving the lead sinker right on the bottom. You're eliminating it out of the equation between the rod tip and the hook. So your sensitivity is going way up. And any little bite, you can feel so much more with that tiny little bump that you get sometimes from the red snappers.
So we also have a new venting tool that's made by Diamond Fishing Products.
Well, they're having evidently there's a new regulation coming out July 15th that says every boat that's fishing for grouper and snapper has to have one of these kind of tools, not just a venting tool, but a descending tool.
A descending tool.
Right.
Yeah,
so Diamond's making one now.
Correct.
This is pretty cool because it's super simple to use.
Right.
There's nothing complicated about this thing. You attach the lead, you tie it to the top, down the fish
tie
goes.
your rod to here, the
Yeah.
lead is here. This goes through the bottom lip of the fish, and as you descend down, as he starts to what do you call that? When he gets through.
He descends down.
He's getting the bubbles out of his system.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
He decompresses.
Yeah, there you go.
Decompress. After
That's
he's
it.
decompressed, then he
Yeah.
can swim off of this. Plus, you're going to reel this, and it's just going to come out of his.
Yeah, you don't even have to
Yep.
really jerk it. You just got to get it down to where it is and then just start reeling and it'll come right off.
Plus, it's small.
Diamond
It's
Fishing
something
Products.
simple to put in your
Right.
tackle box,
And you don't have to be, making surgery on a fish offshore with
No.
that venting tool.
Guys, we were out of time. Holy cow, I can't believe it. Bree, come
Time.
on.
Sorry, time goes fast when you're getting tips from Mike Avedon. What are you
Yeah.
gonna do? All right, now let's get Captain Pat Deneen on the line and see just how bountiful the Garmin Panhandle region is. Are you ready for this weekend, Pat?
Hey, Bree, I am ready for this weekend. It's going to be a very busy one up here in the Destin area. But, hey, red snappers are open season right now. They're numerous on natural bottom and artificial reefs. And don't disregard the smaller wrecks or the smaller reefs. Sometimes they can be the most productive. And then the public reefs, don't disregard them either. If they've been fished pretty hard, just, you might need to just be a little more stealthy, a little bit more tricky on catching them, but they're still there. A live cigar minnow and a herring are best baits, but you can also use squid or pinfish. The standard setup is going to be a Carolina rig with 6 feet of 60-pound leader and a circle hook. And don't drop it straight to the bottom. Start high and work your way down in the water column. Those big snappers will come up to the top, and certainly up to the top 2/3 of the water to eat. And those, as what they just mentioned, sometimes those big ones are the most aggressive. You want to get your bite well off the bottom so that he's got less of a chance of finding the bottom and wrecking. So there's a photo I sent in. That's my brother, Captain Don Deneen's boat, Sure Lure in Destin. He's got 2 real happy anglers with a 28-pound sow red snapper that they caught this past week. So
That-
there are
I'd be
some
happy
nice snappers
too.
being caught.
That is a stud fish, Pat Tar. All right,
It
what
is,
else you got for us
Rick,
offshore?
along with the red snappers, there's being caught catches are including a lot of king mackerel. They've been catching them while free lining the live bait while bottom fishing, but you can also slow troll live baits over structure. You want to use that wire leader with a stinger rig where you got a bait, where your bait has a hook in its nose and one free swinging mid body or back towards the tail. Baits of choice again are going to be herrings and cigar minnows. If you don't have live baits, you can go old school and troll a dead cigar minnow in a duster, or you can troll lures like a lip plug or a spoon. They all will work. Definitely target areas with bottom structure bait schools. The kings are averaging 6 to 12 pounds. And then moving inshore, no matter where you are in the Panhandle, you have tarpon nearby right now. In Apalachicola, Captain Sean Chalker reports good numbers in the bay and along the beaches of St. Vincent Island. They're fishing around the Menhaden schools using live or dead Menhaden. In that dirty water of Apalachicola Bay, you can get away with 100-plus pound leader and large hooks. They're not leader shy over there. But along the western Panhandle beaches, the fish are swimming west. And in our clear water, you need to use lighter leaders, and fluorocarbon are going to get way more bites than mono. Baits of choice along the beaches are cigar minnows, herrings, and pilchards, with pilchards being my #1 bait. The tarpon are averaging 75 to 100 pounds. There are some bigger fish around and some smaller fish around as well. Finally, inshore, beat the heat and the holiday crowds. It's going to be busy on the water this weekend and hot. So So fish the dock lights at night for trout and redfish. The nighttime anglers are having plenty of 50 fish nights. They're live baiting the lights on the bay and in the bayous. Use light 3000 series spinning gear at 6 to 10 pound test. Buy some live shrimp or throw your net and catch some greenies, spot minnows, croakers, or finger mullet. You want to free line your baits under the light, get up current and cast to the edge of the light and let it drift through there. Or use a very light lead or a split shot if needed, if you want to get it down a little deeper. Most trout are running 14 to 20 inches, but there have been some really, really nice trout caught.
So Patar, I got a question for you. When you're fishing at night, you guys go out like at twilight and get set up so that you can see your way around, or are you guys navigating through the dark?
Navigating through the dark pretty much, because you're not just fishing one light, Rick. You're fishing a light, and then when you'll catch several, 2 or 3, 4 fish, maybe 5 or whatever, and then they're still there, but they'll quit biting. So then you hop to the next light. So you're not just strictly fishing one light. You're fishing an area and fishing all the lights in that area.
All right, Patar, then we're going to have to get you a Night Tracks camera just so you can be safe, and more importantly, show it to all the fellas around town so we can sell a bunch of them up there. But it is time for the Blue Water Outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. Appreciate you very much. Inshore schools of redfish on the flats in St. Joe, casting gold spoons. And then offshore, chunk up some red snappers to the surface and free line them on a hook bait, or even maybe throw a fly to them, Brie. Can you imagine that? Red snapper on the fly?
No, but I told you those pictures were gonna blow your minds.
Yeah, you will.
Big snapper. Speaking of snapper, snapper! CCA Florida Star has added snapper as a species in the Youth Scholarship Division presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Catch, photo, and release and win for a share of $100,000 in scholarships. For more information, go to ccafloridastar.com.
That's right.
That's
Snap
right.
to it.
Snap to it.
We could go on all night. We'll be here all
geez.
night.
You'll be here all night. I'm leaving. The fish are biting from sea to shining sea in the Alvey Reels Northeast and Bell's Southwest regions. So stay hooked and get ready to reel right here on the Florida Insider
Fishing Report.
Oh, you're still here. We'll be right back.
All right.
All night, right? All night.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure. Garmin, join the club. Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's largest Kubota dealership, serving Southeast and Southwest Florida and Florida's Space and Treasure Coasts. And Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala.
I'm Captain Rick Murphy, and I'm a life member of CCA. Why am I so involved with CCA, you ask? Because I want our fisheries to be in better shape for my kids and their kids. CCA is working to ensure the future of recreational fisheries and the rights of recreational anglers. The future of fishing starts today with you. How do you want to leave things with your kids? If you're like me, you'll want to make the right choice and go to joinccaflorida.com right now.
Real Legends Performance Clothing. Everything you need to be comfortable on the water all day long. Keeps you cool, dry, and protected from the sun. Durable performance technology at an unbeatable value. Shop anytime or go to reallegends.com to find a Bell store near you.
Every year, Noble Air Charter flies over 20,000 outdoorsmen and families just like you economically to over 300 Bahamian and Florida destinations. Noble Air Charter makes a substantial investment improving booking and aircraft route planning to create the most affordable and economical flight possible. And tomorrow, Noble Air's team will rise to the challenge to raise the bar yet again.
Navigating at night can be dangerous, even for the most experienced drivers. With over 400,000 pixels, Night Track makes it possible to navigate in the dark with confidence. Night Track seamlessly interfaces with all multifunction displays, 2013 or newer, and offers boaters or the outdoorsman peace of mind at an affordable price. For more information, call 251-605-9100.
Hey, Captain Rick Murphy here, and I want to take a second to talk to you a little bit about the Hooker pump box that I have down in this 32 ST Contender. Now, the reason why I like it so much is so many times, depending on a charter or the tournament, we run into situations where we're carrying a variety of different types of baits. We might be carrying thread fins, pilchards, as well as goggle eyes. Some days, maybe it's just crabs and pinfish. The cool part about the pump box that Hooker built for these contenders is that it allows us through a rheostat to dial in the amount of volume that we want in each one of these wells. Now here on this contender, we have two 40-gallon wells in the transom and a much larger floor well. So that is a problem for a lot of pump boxes, but not because of the Hookers, because now we have the ability through a valve system as well as these rheostats to turn up a pump when we need a lot of flow in one well and turn down the flow in another. The other thing that's so cool about Hookers is the quality of products. You get anodized pumps. There's all different types of materials that they use when they're creating these pumps, and they last a really long time. We used to have problems back in the day when we would throw the boat in reverse and we would get cavitation or bubbles that would go through the pump box system, and then our pumps would get a vapor lock until we pulled forward. We don't have that problem anymore since we started using the Hooker pump boxes. So if you're thinking about upgrading your pump box or you're getting ready to build a new boat, whether it's a center console or a bay boat, make sure you guys check out the Hooker pump boxes. Wow, if people only knew some of the little sidebar notes that go on when they can't hear us, huh, Brie?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Boy, I tell you, those pumps though are the best. To be able to dial in specific areas where you want lots of flow is just so awesome. Good job, Hooker.
Good job. All right, the Alvy Reels Northeast region has a lot going on, and the anticipation is just almost too much to handle. So, Tommy, please talk to us.
That's right, Brie. You know, if anybody's ready and excited to get out there and catch and actually keep a couple red snapper, it's the anglers here in the Alvy Sidecast Reels Northeast region. You know, we are definitely looking forward to the short season coming up next weekend and the following. You know, there's an absolute ton of red snapper on just about any type of structure from about 65 foot and out. Although a lot of the bigger fish here tend to come from a little bit deeper. The usual frozen baits like sardines, herring, and cigar minnows, they're going to work well, but if you can find some live cigar minnows or sardines, or even some live pinfish, you're probably going to get the quicker bite. Captain Shane Stover from InshoreAdventures.net, he tells me that if you're really looking to get a big snapper, you're going to want to put one of those live baits on a flat line. You know, those big fish, they're pretty schooled these days. They've been caught and released multiple times. And having that free line bait looks a little more natural to them, and it's probably going to fool those big snappers into biting a little quicker. Now, there's also, guys, there's a great mangrove snapper bite happening in a lot of those same areas as the red snapper. And those mangoes, they respond to that free line live bait as well. Now, when the red snapper season opens up, it's going to be really crowded out there. Everybody be kind to your fellow anglers, give each other plenty of room. And also, you know what, double check the regulations before you go. FWC is going to be out there in big numbers, making sure things go as smooth as possible. And I've got a picture of some red snapper here. Captain Shane Stover sent me this picture of some big old red snapper they caught east of St. Augustine.
Nice.
Now, staying offshore, guys, kingfish bite has been really steady this week throughout the region. There's a ton of small to medium-sized fish on the nearshore reefs and wrecks, and there are a few bigger fish mixed in, and there's some big fish also along the beach. Now, slow trolling some live pogies, if you can find them, they're a little tough to find right now, or mullet, or even dragging some dead baits. Those have all been working well. Guys, I saw some huge kingfish skyrocketing through the shrimp boat bycatch this week as well. We hooked a few, but you know, we weren't using some wire leaders. We were mostly looking for tarpon. And speaking of tarpon, what an incredible tarpon bite we have going on right now. The beach tarpon, they've shown up in really big numbers this week. The pods of pogies along the beach, like I was talking about, they're a little tough to find, but if you do find them, I can almost guarantee you there's going to be some big tarpon feeding on them. Now, the tarpon, they're also behind the shrimp boats from Jacksonville, actually even Fernandina, all the way down to Daytona. If you time it right, when they dump their bycatch, you're going to find some big tarpon in the mix of sharks, jack crevalles, and some big kingfish, all feeding on those floating dead fish. Now, I like to use a 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader with an 8/0 Eagle Claw trocar circle hook. That trocar circle hook, it is by far the best hook going for those big tarpon. There's also quite a few tarpon in the backcountry and in the canals from Daytona to Palm Coast. Those are going to be the little bit smaller ones in that 10 to 40 pound range. And those fish have been active early in the morning, right at sunup, and then right after those afternoon thunderstorms. That seems to really fire them up. I spoke to Captain Chris Herrera from PalmCoastFishing.com. He tells me he's been on a great small tarpon bite at night. He's fishing those lighted docks and bridges in Palm Coast. Now, Chris is going to shut the boat down early and just drift by those dock lights, looking or even listening for busting fish that are just outside that shadow line. Now, the best baits for those guys, they've been big live shrimp or a finger mullet, either free lined or under a float. And I've got a tarpon picture here. This is Tom Scott and I with a big tarpon that Tom caught off Matanzas Inlet just a couple of days ago.
Nice. Good job there, Cap. All right, what else you got for us inshore?
Rick, the redfish, man, we've got an awesome high tide at first light this weekend. You know what that means? Top water time for redfish. There's a ton of finger mullet hanging on the edges of the grass on the high tide stage. That top water, it's going to look just like one of those mullet. Hopefully it's just a little bit tastier looking to the fish. Toss that top water in those areas where you find the bigger concentrations of those mullet. Now, if top water isn't your thing, live and cut mullet have been working really well in those same areas. And as the tide goes out and the sun comes up, it's going to get hot. It's going to get really hot. Those redfish are going to be lazy, and a cut piece of mullet, it's a summer staple once that water gets into the mid 80s here, like it has been this week. I like to rig the cut mullet on a 3/0 Eagle Claw circle hook with a couple of big split shots a few inches above the bait. And it's a great no-brainer rig. Works really well for those picky, lazy redfish. And guys, I've got one last picture here. Captain Jake Bates sent me this picture of Georgia Bates with a big old redfish that she caught up there in Fernandina.
Nice. Good job with all the pictures and the great report, Tommy. We appreciate you very much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. He says inshore, tarpon along the beaches, inlets, and behind the shrimp boats. And then offshore, kingfish on 9 Mile Reef out of St. Augustine, slow troll, pogies, mullet, or a variety of deadboat.
You know what, Rick? He said if topwater's not your thing.
Yeah.
Is it ever not anybody's thing? I mean, topwater bite is so much fun to see.
You're 100% correct. But what happens sometimes, Brie, is guys don't want to have to do all that work because twitching a topwater plug can be a little scientific, believe it or not. So they like to throw it out, crack one cold one open, put it in the thing, and then wait for the thing to go down.
I mean, fish it. That's what I meant.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I know what you mean.
I know. Okay.
That's what they're waiting on.
Well, I'm just a question because I love seeing the topwater bite.
I know.
Right.
I do too. I'm with you.
Okay, now let's get our firecracker of a captain on the line from the Bell's Southwest region and see what we'll be catching this 4th of July weekend. Hi, Ronnie.
Well, Bree, it's always a pleasure representing the Bell's Southwest region. And don't listen to what Rick says, Bree. I'll throw top waters all day. That's a real man catching real fish. So don't take his advice.
That's what I'm talking about.
I knew when I saw he was up next, I was in trouble.
So anyway, guys, the red snappers in the region, obviously we're fishing them on the bottom. You always want to make sure you have moderate weather. Guys are running bigger boats out to these depths. For instance, Mike Avedon, he runs that 32 contender. And a little tip I will give you that you should do every time you run out that far, or even not that far, always follow a float plan when you're making runs into the outer Gulf. But when targeting red snappers in the Southwest region, Capt. Mike Avedon to the south targets them in depths of about 140 to 180. And he's using a variety of cut baits, including cut squid, herring, sardines, live pinfish and grunts, but he also likes to be on the move. That guy's always on the move. Areas he targets once you drop down and either don't get a bite or catching smaller fish, it's time for him to move on. But Captain Corey McGuire to the north, he does things a little different. He's been doing something similar, but he's targeting depths right now of 165 to 200. Although he's using cut sardines and he's using bonita strip, he's telling me 6 to 10 ounces of lead is important depending upon the current, and he's fishing it on a fish finder rig with 6 to 10 foot a leader. Now, both captains, like I say, are working a similar pattern, but most important thing is when you're going out for the red snappers, Alternating your bait and water current's going to be really important, and I've got a nice picture just recently caught of a red snapper in the southwest region. Now, the permits. Captain Corey McGuire to the north end of the region says, with the light winds in the last week and still we've got plenty of clean water, the permit bite remains strong. He's telling me fish most noted structure from 8 to 30 miles out, as well as to the south, though, there's reports that wrecks, artificial reefs, and towers are plenty of fish. Now, there's a couple different ways to catch them. You can do the run and gun pattern, or spending a little time or anchoring up on the structure, or just simply drifting across the structure several times, especially if you see these fish on your bottom finder. And free-lined or just having a little bit of weight is going to be the key. And number one bait of choice right now is going to be those crabs for the permit. And I've got a nice picture of a permit just recently caught while fishing with Captain Corey to the north. Now, the inshore side, the snook fishing remains strong right now from Boca Grande to Fort Myers Beach, along the passes and beaches on the higher stages of the tide. And especially with the amount of bait along the beach, you can actually walk the beaches, but with the water being clear, you're going to have to downsize them leaders, along with artificials like spoons, jigs, and flies. Or guys are telling me they're having more successful rate sight casting than with pilchards and pinfish. But to the south where I've been fishing, the water clarity is different on the outside islands right now. Anywhere from Indian Key to Highland Beach, you got some tannic water, you got some clean water, and you got some lightly stained water. I specifically have been throwing the top water plugs. But live pilchards, top water walk the dog lures will work, the Bass Assassin sea shoots in white, Bear and Houdini, as well as gold and silver spoons. Now, even though the water temps right now down south are reaching 90 to 93 degrees, the fish are sure chewing, but one of the tips I'll give you is when I'm throwing them top water plugs and I get some fish miss them plugs, I automatically put the power poles down. I keep fan casting out area for another 10 or 15 minutes just to see what I'm going to need to trigger a bite. And I got a nice picture of CCA Star winner from the Florida Insider Fishing Report. We caught plenty of snook over the weekend, and there's a nice slot-sized snook. And we did catch several oversized snooks, so be careful when handling them fish and releasing them. Last species is going to be the tarpon bite. And good up in the north end of the region, according to Captain Corey McGuire, he's telling me Stump Pass to Sanibel Pass, the beaches, and out to about 20 foot in depth. But fish are starting, like I say, to make their way up to the hill and into the harbor. But he says also the passes and beaches from Doctor's Pass south to Cape Romano, opportunity is still good in those areas. Baits of choice in all these areas I've mentioned are going to be hopefully the number one live crab, the herring, the pinfish, the pilchards, and a variety of 4 to 6 inch swim baits. If you got some live baits, bring a variety of them with you. And I've got a picture of a double tarpon release while fishing with Captain Corey up in the northern end of the region.
All right, Thank you so much. Great report from the Bell Southwest region, Ronnie. It's time to take a look at the Caddy Can Southwest hotspots. He says trout, the Ragala Keys to Panther Keys, grassy areas off of the edge of the sandbar and 2 to 4 feet of water using live pilchards. And then guess what? Offshore, scamps, gags, and redfish. Fort Myers Beach to Stump Pass and 100 to 120 feet of water using cut baits and live pinfish.
90 to 93 degrees.
I know.
That is some hot water.
Smoking.
All right, hang on tight, my fellow Americans. We're dropping our lines in the Casa Vieja Southeast region next. But first, we're checking out what fun products Dave has for me at the CCA Workbench.
Well, I've got some boy shirts, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about these things.
Oh, those are leggings. I got you.
You're going to have to.
I got you, Dave.
Are you going over there with us?
I don't know. Maybe. If you're lucky, we'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Ameritrail. Load. Launch. Relax. Real Legends. Exclusively at Bell's. Okuma. Inspired Fishing. Discover Crystal River, Florida. And Maverick Boat Group. Makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Jason Blaylock, Todd Auten, Hank Fury. Let's go!
Garmin Live Scope, I tell you right now, if you don't have it, you are behind. It's just wild. It's like a video game.
If you do not have that Garmin Live Scope, you are definitely missing out.
Bassmaster Classic Champion!
There are moments in our lives that make us realize how fortunate we really are. To breathe fresh air, to taste the salt of the sea, to be able to roam free in nature. The Florida Keys and Key West are now open to visitors. We have so much to be grateful for.
Well, here at the CCA workbench, you know, Dave, we've had a lot of help over here this evening, you know?
Well, we're talking about leggings eventually.
Yes.
So I don't know much about them.
So what are we
I like to
talking
look
about
at them
first? Yeah, yeah, me too. I'm with you.
That's all it is.
We have an understanding now, bro.
I get it.
Bell's Real Legends. This is the best-selling staple that they had for a long time, called the Freeline Raglan shirt. And a Raglan sleeve is a sleeve that's one piece that's sewn onto the garment in one spot like that, so it gives you a lot of freedom of movement and everything. And these come with a nice tech panels on the front and the back, and a nice big air vent back there.
Air vent, yeah.
So they're really cool as far as keeping them, air flowing, keeping the moisture wicking off of you as well. It's got two different fabrics on there that so get the UPF and the moisture. So it's like UPF 30 and a moisture wicking as well. And it comes with a bone. You pair it with a bonefish short. Here is an 8-pocket cargo short. It's dry. Dries really fast. It's water repellent. It's got the side elastic, which I really enjoy because I'm large, and it stretches out for you. Gives you a nice, secure, and comfortable fit.
Yes.
So those are the Freeline. And next they have the ladies version over there. The ladies long sleeve Freeline. It's also the shirt there is a UPF 30.
So Brie, you want to talk about this because my man over here is stumbling and fumbling. He's
fine. He's doing great. It's the Freeline 30 UPF moisture wicking. I have a lot of these shirts, and it's not only great for fishing and being on the boat. I work out in these. I do yard work, housework, whatever in it. It's a great shirt, like Dave said.
Comes in a variety of whole bunch of different
colors.
Yeah.
This is the color of my house,
yes.
which I've already talked about.
Okay.
And these are their Elite Comfort leggings. They're high-waisted. They have a cell phone or key pocket.
A little hidden key pocket.
Which is nice.
UPF 50.
Yes, UPF 50.
Snag resistant.
They're super soft. I have a bunch of these too, and like I said, you can use them for a variety of different activities.
So I have a personal question for you, Brie.
Sure.
They won't snag.
So do you, because you're short here,
yes,
do you roll this down?
I
like
do sometimes.
Turn?
Yeah, it depends on what shirt you're wearing. If it's a longer shirt, I keep them up. And if I'm working out, I keep them up. But, if I have a shorter tank top on, I'll roll them down.
You want to show that midsection.
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't.
Of course you do. All right, what else, Dave? Let's keep moving.
Next, we got some Eagle Claw TK3 XLs. These are, first time they're coming in a 50-pack. The Lancet circle hooks for salt water. They got the Trocar surgically sharpened technology, so it's, they go right in with half the pressure of their competition. It's got a really wide gap and a medium wire, so it's going to be hard to straighten one of those things out. Like I said, fast, deep penetration, and it's got a nice welded eye at the top. It doesn't have a little gap there that can cause you problems sometimes. A black chrome finish, and it's made out of cold forged high carbon American steel.
I like the fact that it's slightly offset.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think that it's got a bend. I'm not sure. I think it's
still
right
at the tip offset.
Yeah, I got you. TK3 for wide variety of species.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, next we got the Danco 6.5-inch aluminum pliers. These are their Angler series, the cheapest ones they make. They're you can get them for like $10 or something. They're made out of still aluminum, T6, 60061, aircraft aluminum, corrosion resistant, anodized coating, comes in 4 or 5 different colors. It's got chrome vanadium cutters on there that you can actually change out. and go to Danco Pliers and get them. Real quick, there, Mirror Lure. We got the suspending crankbait. A lot of times, we use the top dog or the sheep pup because we like to throw the top water, and the Mirrodine is one of my favorite lures. But this is their suspending crankbait, and when you're fishing in water that's 2 feet deep and you got a little grass on the bottom, and you want to work that area, that little 10-inch area between the surface and the grass, this would be perfect for it. It'll go down, 2 to 5 feet, so you can work it in as deep or as shallow as you want, and because it suspends, you can keep it in right where you want it, which is a great thing to have on the flats.
I threw this the other day, this exact lure, in a bone and silver sides.
Oh.
And 2 casts, and we had lots of little tarpon rolling around. Boom. Caught one.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Mirror lures,
For those of you-
you can't beat a mirror lure anyway, no matter what kind it is.
I like it.
For those of you who don't like to throw top water.
Exactly.
Whatever. All right, if you want snapper in the Casa Vieja Southeast region, listen up to Jimbo Thomas as he gives us the 411 on the weekend. Go for it, Jimbo.
Hey, Bree, Rick, and Dave. Well, here in the Southeast region, we catch plenty of snappers that are red, but not many true or genuine red snappers. Now, since it's been illegal to keep any of these true reds caught in the Atlantic federal waters for, 10, 11, 12 years, they've definitely made a great comeback, and we're seeing much more of them on a regular basis. Now, depending on which area of the region you're fishing out of, you might or might not be in federal or state waters. The state waters extend 3 miles out from the beach, and the federal waters are from 3 miles on out. So if you catch a red snapper from Palm Beach south to Key Biscayne, most likely you're going to be in state waters. You can keep that fish as long as they meet the 20-inch minimum size limit. But as you get south to Key Biscayne, chances are that you're going to be in federal waters, and unfortunately, to be legal, you're going to have to let that fish go. Now, I've had my best success catching red snapper around wrecks in the 250 to 300 foot range in the winter months. Now, our bait of choice is a live pinfish, but pretty much any other good live bait will work. They'll also eat cut bait, but the fish caught on the live baits are usually much larger, and the few that we see are usually in the 15 to 20 pound range. Now, when we're dropping on the wrecks, we like to use 30 to 50 pound tackle, use enough weight to hold bottom, and a long 50 to 80 pound mono or fluoro leader, and a 6.0 to 8.0 circle hook, depending on what size bait you're using. Now, and also you want to try to fish that bait as close to the bottom without hanging that wreck or whatever structure you're on. Now, there is a federal red snapper mini season coming up, and it's going to be open for 4 days, I believe. And the dates are July 10, 11, 12, and then July 17th. And the limit will be 1 red snapper per person per day with no size limit. Now, we got dolphin offshore. The dolphin fishing has definitely picked up in the last week. We've been finding schools of fish anywhere from 4 to 12 miles offshore, but the problem is a lot of these fish have been on the small side. We've been picking through these fish, we've been keeping the legals, and we've been tagging and releasing the short ones. Now, generally, when you hit a school of dolphin, the larger fish are going to be the first ones to bite. They're the biggest because they're the most aggressive. And then once that size starts shrinking, it's a good idea to move on, look for another school. Now, most of the schools have been under birds and scatter sargassum weed, and we've had a ton of grass out there, so no problem finding that. And they've been working their way traveling to the south. Now, once you do find them, they haven't been too finicky. We've been getting them on the troll with rig ballyhoo and small lures. And then once we find the fish, we've been pitching live pilchards, other small live baits as well as cup bonito and ballyhoo. Been a few larger fish caught under the frigate birds and debris. Just got to get lucky to find them. Now, I got a photo here. This is the crew from Ken Cook Carpentry, a group out of Naples, with a nice catch of schoolies that we had earlier in the week. Nice. Now, moving inshore, we have catch and release snook fishing in all of the inlets throughout the region. They are holding snook. They're being caught on live herrings, pinfish, and pilchards. You want to drift the cuts using a Jupiter rig. And also you can bounce 1 to 2 ounce white, pink, or chartreuse, flare hawk, or bucktail jigs along the bottom. They've been biting on both the incoming and outgoing tides. Early morning and the evenings is when this snook bite is going to be the best. There's also nighttime bite around the bridges and the dock light shadow lines, and been using live baits as well as jigs and soft plastics. And then any of the mangrove shorelines and the spillway canals has been producing snook, and if you can find some bait in the vicinity, that's where those snook are going to be. And then we've got some great bone fishing in South Biscayne Bay, fishing along the western shoreline from Matheson Hammock south to Turkey Point, and also on the outside flats from Soldier's Key south to Angelfish Creek. And it's been mainly an early morning or late afternoon bite, early before the water gets too hot, late when that water starts to cool down. The outgoing tide has been the most productive. Then on the higher stages of the tide, you want to look for these bonefish mudding or tailing on top of the flats. Then on the lower stages, look for those fish along the deeper edges of the flats and the channels. Live shrimp's been one of the best baits, along with small crabs. Use 15 to 20 pound fluorocarbon leaders and 2.0 to 3.0 bait keeper hooks or fly tackle using crab pattern flies. Got another photo here. This is Lewis Cruz and a bonefish that he caught on the fly rod off the Ragged Keys last week, I believe it was, and he was fishing with Captain Joe Gonzalez.
Of course he was. Those two were inseparable for the longest of time.
They are.
Glad to see Louis in the show. Thanks for sending that picture in. It's time for the R&R Tackle Hotspots. Thank you so much, Jimbo. Inshore, fish tarpon and snook off the beaches with live and artificial baits early in the morning and late in the afternoons. And then offshore, head offshore in search of mahi, 8 to 15 miles out under birds, floaters, and weed lines.
Rick, I have a question.
Yes?
How did the farmer find his wife?
I don't know. How did he?
He tracked her down.
Oh.
I had to. It was so good.
That's a good birthday
joke. I saw that on
joke.
Facebook today. It's my birthday joke. It's my one birthday present. Thank you. Hope you're getting your red, white, and blue together because we're headed to the Keys and Star Tron Central West regions next on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. But remember, to keep up with everything fishing in Florida, head over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. See you soon.
That ain't like diver down.
No, it's tractor down.
Tractor down.
Tractor down.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron, cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems. Alvi Reels, a better way to fish. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 30 years. Diamond Fishing Products, our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Come explore untouched Florida, where you'll step into holy sea cow and fish pristine waters where you'll reel in, whoa! Come discover Crystal River with exciting adventures and incredible surprises everywhere. From exhilarating river adventures to scalloping in the Gulf to delicious fish to fork cuisine, this is the place where you can relax into Just a short drive from Tampa and Orlando is the amazing Discover Crystal River, Florida. Learn more at discovercrystalriverfl.com.
Dive into scallop season and become part of a tradition in Crystal River and Homosassa. Let our local captains take you out on an underwater adventure, dive along the unspoiled shores of the Nature Coast, and fill your bag with delectable bay scallops. Then we'll cook your catch for dinner. It's a local tradition and a Florida favorite. Discover Crystal River invites you to plan your scallop season adventure from July 1st through September 24th at discovercrystalriverfl.com. I'm excited because we're going there soon. Yep.
Yes.
All right, there's no better place to be than the Keys, of course, especially this weekend. So let's get Captain Randy Tao on the line to tell us what we'll be catching.
Hey, good evening, fish fans. You know, here in the Garmin Keys region, we do catch red snapper. It's not really our go-to fish like they have in the Gulf of Mexico, but we still catch them. And a lot of the fish we catch in the Upper Keys, we do it when we're bottom fishing for mutton snappers. You know, they kind of hang in the same area, and you're fishing for them the same way. But as you get down throughout the Keys, Marathon and Key West and the Tortugas, which is kind of the snapper haven for all snappers, the fishing gets better down there, and those guys really can actually target, both in the Atlantic and in the Gulf of Mexico, genuine red snappers. They're certainly good to eat, and you got to check your seasons because they're closed most of the time. But when they're open, it seems like everybody wants to get in on it. And Captain Chris Trossett, he's a local guide out of Key West with Real Fly Charters. He specializes in light tackle fishing, and one of his specialties is targeting the red snapper in particular. And I've got a photo with his angler with a monster genuine they caught.
Nice. All right, bub. Let's stay offshore. What else you got?
You know, it's dolphin time. There's a lot of dolphin around right now, up and down the Keys. You know, when we talk about dolphin fishing, you got to remember Key Largo's different from Alamrata. Alamrata's different from Marathon, Key West. So you're really looking for a condition, whether it's the current or floating debris, weed lines, birds. You know, there's going to be something you're going to recognize to locate where your dolphin is at. And it might start in 400 feet. It might not show up till 1,000 feet, depending on where you're fishing from. But nonetheless, a lot of guys will get in an area and they'll get their binoculars out and they'll scan around to see if there's some birds on the horizon. And a lot of times when you find them, when you find the birds and you zone in on them, you might have another pack a mile down the road or a half a mile, so you're kind of in them. And that really makes the difference right now. It's very difficult to go blind trolling and be successful, and there's nobody that does it better than Captain Brian Cohn on his boat, the Contagious, and he has two master anglers that are very good at dolphin fishing, Captain Richard DeLeon and his brother Donald. This is a picture of their winning dolphin they caught over the weekend, 32 pounds, and that's what Brian does.
Nice. That's a good one. All right, bub, let's go inshore. What you got?
Snook fishing, Rick, it's still really good. You know, it's that time of year. I love the backcountry fishing. July, August, September are my three favorite months. I think if you want to catch a fish in the Keys, those 3 months, whether it's on the reef, offshore, or backcountry, you're going to get it done. And the snook fishing is certainly holding its own right now. If you've got a flats boat and you want to sight fish, there's plenty of them on the flats. Guys are getting shots. I talked to the guys that pole around, and they're finding plenty of fish around the Flamingo area. And then you've got guys with the bigger boats, like I have a Contender Bay boat, and I'm fishing a little deeper water. I'm fishing the shorelines. I'm fishing the beaches, and I like using live pinfish on a jig head, and it's working pretty well lately. And you know, the tide is really important. You got to have moving water, whether it's incoming or outgoing. You've got to have that water moving for best results. And you know, I've got a photo of our very own Dave Farrell. I keep wanting to say Captain tonight, but Dave Farrell fished with me and his family a few days ago, and we got into him in the backcountry, and this happy camper caught a few of these.
Wow, that's some nice, pretty work there, Dave and Randy. All right, one more to go, Randy.
You know, the permit are right in there along with everything else. There's a lot of permit this time of year in the bay, and it can stretch from Key West to Cape Sable, depending on where you are, even Chokoloskee. And the calm days, when you get those calm days and you see those schools of permit floating, you know, they can be on the surface. So if you're running out in the bay and you're kind of looking and you're paying attention, you'll see these fish if they're schooled up, and they'll flash and they'll moon. They call it mooning, where their sides hit the sun and it reflects, and you can see it from a good distance. And that's really key right now to a lot of these schools of permit that you might find in the bay. They might be on structure, they might be a mile away from structure, but have some crabs ready and be on the lookout when you're driving around. Maybe you're looking for triple tails or something else. You see a flash, get ready and go check it out. And I've got a photo of Lauren Sparkman with her permit we did doing just that.
Pretty picture. All right, Randy, thank you so much. Great report from the Florida Keys region. It's time for the Sunset Inn hotspots from the Florida Keys inshore. Randy says we should go bonefish. Look for the oceanside shorelines on the incoming tide from 10 to 2 when the light is best. And then offshore, dolphin fishing 600 to 800 feet of water in the morning. Looking for the birds moving into 400 to 500 feet of water in the afternoon. How about it, Brie?
Well, Rick, we are finally in July and we have a Keys tournament alert. Coming up is the Key West Marlin Tournament, July 22nd through July 25th, and is limited to the first 75 boats only. This year's tournament is featuring 50,000 buckaroos in guaranteed cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration in Key West. To enter and find out more information, head over to keywestmarlin.com. Tournament time, man. It's going to be fun. All right, let's say hi to Captain Jeff Page in the Startron Central West region, who I know will be celebrating on the water this weekend. Right, Page?
Yes, red,
Yes.
white, and blue.
Woo-hoo.
I got it up for the
Good
weekend.
job.
You
Proud of
do.
you.
Hey, I just heard Randy talking about flashing, and we love it when they flash, don't we, Rick?
Oh boy,
Oh,
when they're
boy.
flashing, it's on like Donkey Kong, dog.
And mooning.
Hey, I don't care what species it is.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what?
Redfish, tarpon,
You guys are
bonefish.
killing me. Let's get to the report, Page.
All right. In the Startron Central West region, you know, Randy talked about it. Out in the Gulf, we're known for red snapper, and this is the time of year. Right now, middle of the summer, 90 to 130 feet of water. And I've gotten reports from guys down south like Bo Johnson, all the way up to the north part of the region to Hubbard's offshore party boats, and all in between. Everybody's catching them. And it doesn't matter if you have live bait or even frozen sardines are working. Standard bottom rigs, 2 chicken rigs are going to work real well. And the thing that I like about it, Rick, is you're not just going to catch red snappers on these areas of hard bottom. You're going to catch red grouper, you're going to catch gag grouper, you're going to catch scamp. And like I said, it's good to bring both types of bait, live and frozen. And the guys are limiting out on their snapper, and then they're moving on to other species. I only think there's about another couple weeks left in the recreational, and the weather is awesome. So make sure you get out and get your red snappers. My red snapper photo tonight is of a bunch of happy clients on the flying fish with Captain Tim No out of Marina Jacks. Rolling into my other species, another snapper is the mangrove snapper. With the full moon approaching, Rick, look for the mangrove snapper fishing to even get better. I've gotten good reports of fish up to 10 pounds and some even bigger on the ledges and wrecks anywhere from 90 to 150 feet of water. The key has been marking the bigger bait stacks on your machine over these areas of hard bottom. And standard bottom rig's gonna work, and you can even use a small pinfish or a medium-sized pilchard on a jig head. I heard Randy mention that as well. I think he was snook fishing, but you're gonna get more bites if you downsize that leader down to 20 if you can, fluorocarbon. And my mangrove picture tonight is of Captain Tim No himself with some happy clients on the flying fish.
Boy, that is a stud mango there.
Wow.
Woo, what
Yes,
a snapper.
sir.
All right.
Moving in short, Randy talked about it. I'm going to talk about it. Snook fishing remains really good, and I've gotten reports as far north as Fort DeSoto, all along the beaches, in the passes, Bunce's Pass, Egmont Pass, Paso Grill, Anna Maria Pass, all the way down to Boca Grande. The key, Rick, has been finding any kind of structure. It can be limestone rock, rock piles, down trees, branches. Anywhere there's some structure, you're going to find snook, even a trough along the public beach. And right now, there's a lot of small bait out there along the beaches. So if you take your time and go cast net some bigger pilchards or pinfish and grunts, bring those out there. They're going to catch those snooks' attention. If you're into throwing lures, it's tough to beat the saltwater assassin Violet Moon or the Pearl White on a 1/4 ounce silver jig head. And I've also gotten good reports around the oyster bars of Long Bar, Palmasola, and Terracea Bay early in the morning on the higher stages of the tide, throwing topwater surface plugs, catching snook up to 34 inches. I've got a snook photo tonight. It's pretty special. Peter Smith and Jake Hines with a big girl that they'll be hoping they can catch in the Big Art Memorial Snook Tournament, which is out of Blankers Marina, July 9th, 17th, and 18th. And it's all big snook night and day. My last species tonight, tarpon fishing. I know everyone's talking about it because it remains really good. If anything, the fish are getting closer to spawning out, Rick. I believe on this next full moon they will. But there's still plenty of fish along the beaches, and I've heard reports of fish moving up into the harbor off the east and west side of the harbor, being Burnt Store or the west wall. Guys up there are catching them on live ladyfish or DOA bait busters. Along the beaches are catching them on thread fins and free line crabs. You can cork them or free line them. That being said, my last photo tonight is with a happy camper from the Sarasota Fishing Camp with Captain Kevin Wessel, and that young man caught his first tarpon.
Nice.
Super
All right, Paige, did a good job tonight. Tell Eddie Zayak he's going to owe me for that DOA mention. It is time for a daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. See you later, bub. Let's take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots inshore. Snook and tarpon, fish live free line ladyfish, or silver mullet around New Pass and Longboat Pass bridges at nighttime. And then red snapper, fish hard bottom areas in 12 to 150 feet of water off of Passage Key, using live pinfish pilchards on a standard bottom rig.
Nothing gets past you. Okay, well, for those of you celebrating in the Fish Bites East region, we'll be making you independent anglers for the Independence Day weekend ahead. We'll be right back here on the Florida Insider Fishing Report.
All right.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. The IGFA, Fish for the World. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And Bells, everything you need to live life local.
When you live on an island, surrounded by warm, clear water, and a million ways to enjoy it, it's amazing you'll ever have time to come up for air. Key West. Close to perfect, far from normal.
Get a great deal on the Kubota L-Series tractor. Built upon a solid foundation of cast iron and steel, the Kubota L-Series tractor is the #1 selling compact tractor in the U.S. for over 10 years. With a powerful Kubota diesel engine and dependable gear or HST transmission, it's ready to take on your toughest projects. Right now, get the L2501 HST for payments as low as $149 a month.
Florida Coast Equipment, Florida's highest volume Kubota dealer.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Today's Power Pull tip is about the new Power Pull Charge power management station.
The cool thing about the Charge is it replaces 3 systems on your boat. It replaces your traditional 3 or 4 bank battery charger, so when you're at the house, you plug it into the wall. The PowerPole Charge is going to optimize and balance your batteries like nothing ever out there. It also replaces your on-the-run charger, so anytime you've got the Yamaha running, it's going to replace the power in your trolling motor batteries and your cranking batteries all day while you're running from spot to spot. And the third thing it does, it's got an emergency start feature in it. So if you're ever out there and your cranking battery dies and you can't get the motor started, go to the Sea Monster app, transfer the power, and you're good to go. Get back to the dock. For any more information about the PowerPole Charge, you can go to powerpole.com or stop by one of your local dealers. That's your PowerPole tip.
So guys, I'm going to tell you, I've had the Charge in the boat now since February, and I have not plugged the boat in one time.
Drop it.
That's how well the Charge recharges my trolling motor batteries running home. It's amazing.
Perfect.
I would have never thought it was possible.
What a great name for it.
Yeah, man, the Charge.
The Charge. If you want to find Reds in the Fish Bites East region, they're seeking cooler shelter like the rest of us here in Florida. So let's get Captain Mike Holliday on the line to tell us more. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Brie, how are you?
Good. Just turning 30 soon, you know.
Red snapper are more of a deep water species than the other snappers and the muttons and the mangroves. And in my region, they tend to move to the deeper reefs during the summer months when the water gets warmer. So you'll find them on the reefs in like 120 to 180 feet of water. The best action is going to be on the northern end of the region, mostly because there's more natural reef areas in that region. And places like the 8 Mile Reef, the reef line in 160 to 170 feet of water that are on the western edge of that closed Ocalina Bank area. It's going to have a lot of red snapper on it this time of year, as well as grouper. They're basically garbage cans. They'll eat everything from a squid to a pilchard, a threadfin, a goggle eye, a grunt plug, a chunk of bonita, a live mullet. Drop that bait down on 60-pound tackle, 60-pound fluorocarbon leader, and a 7/0 and 9/0 circle. Trocar circle hook, and you're pretty much going to have no problem getting them in. Average red snapper in my region is going to be 8 to 12 pounds. I got a photo. That's Captain Scott Fawcett of offthechain.com with a big red snapper. That fish ate a live goggle eye in 120 feet of water off Jensen Beach. And while we're talking about snapper, you know, the calm seas have ramped up the mangrove snapper bite throughout my entire region. There's excellent snapper fishing on the reefs and wrecks in 60 to 90 feet of water, as well as 6 and 8 Mile reefs on the Loran Tower Ledge, up at Bethel Shoals. All those areas have really good snapper fishing. The largest snapper being caught at night, but there's plenty of those 3 to 5 pound mangroves that are coming off the shallow reefs in areas that aren't getting a lot of fishing pressure. If there's not a lot of current, you can anchor up on the reefs and you can chum with glass minnows or pilchards or cut chunks of bunker or thread fins or sardines. And if you chum, you may be able to draw a lot of those fish up to the surface and kind of pick out the snapper that you want and free line a bait back to it. Out in that deeper water, there's been a lot of current, up to 5 knots right now, so it's better to just drift along and bounce the bottom with a fish finder rig with a sardine or a cigar minnow or a chunk of bonita on it. The average mangrove snapper in the region is going to be 2 to 3 pounds. I got a photo. That's Chloe Moon. She caught that nice mangrove snapper in 90 feet of water. That fish ate a Spanish sardine, and she was fishing with Captain Jonathan Earhart of Chaos Fishing Adventures.
All right, let's go inshore, bub.
Well, you know, we're starting that phase where the tarpon population that's been migrating through the area starts to take up residency for the summer months. And in my area, that means they're in, 3 different places. The inlets, they're on the minnow schools along the beach, and they're in their normal inshore summer haunts in places like the Loxahatchee River, the Crossroads area of Stewart, the Harbor Ridge of the St. Lucie River, the mouth of Big Mud Creek and Harbor Branch in the Indian River. Those tend to be smaller fish on the inside. In the inlets, the fish are feeding on mullet on the outgoing tide, and it's been best in the evenings when there's not a lot of boat traffic. Guys are getting 3 to 5 bites in the evenings. If you're fishing the minnows on the beach, you want to throw something that just stands out from the minnows. Minnows are red, so you want to throw something that's more like a white colored, like a saltwater assassin, PT 200, or an albino colored split tail shad. put it on a quarter-ounce jig head, working on the outside edges of the school very slowly. If you want to target the resident fish up in the river, the live mullet or a Houdini-colored 4-inch sea shad is going to work. Average tarpon in our region is going to be 50 to 90 pounds. The other thing, if you're looking to have some steady action, end your day with a good meal, find the minnow schools that are stacked up along the beaches right now and fish the edges of those minnows for the Atlantic croakers that are feeding from the minnow schools. The minnows are in different areas every day. So what you want to do is get some binoculars, go to a beach access, walk up on the access, and then look for the dark school of minnows in tight on the shoreline or the diving birds. Some of the more common places are like Normandy Beach, Walton Rocks, the South Jetty in Fort Pierce, and the Vero Cove. When you find them, grab a rod or two, put a piece of shrimp or a sand flea or a Fish Bites Easy Flea or a Fish Bites yellow-colored clam strip on a double hook or triple hook surf rig, and just toss it out right on the outside edge of the minnows. A lot of times the croakers are right in their minnows, right up on shore, so don't feel the need to cast out far. Average croakers can be about a pound, but you can catch 20 of them pretty quickly.
Nice. All right. Well, we always have to have a bass report. That's your duty. So what do you got?
Well, the grass is back in the Stick Marsh Farm 13 reservoir. That's got the bass chewing early and late in the day around those open water patches of hyacinth. We're in our summer pattern, so it's an early morning bite. You want to be on the water at dawn, throwing frogs or lipless crankbaits along the edges of the grass. What's nice is that a lot of these fish are in that 3 to 6 pound class. By 8 a.m., it's a Texas rig 8-inch worm, or you can tail hook a live shiner, let it run under the grass. If you can find moving water around the spillways or canals, you can fish a white saltwater assassin swim bait and do well around those smaller schooling fish. Right now, it's a 50 fish morning. What's nice is a lot of 3 or 4 pound fish.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Great report from the Fish Bites East region. But it is time for the T&H Marine Hotspots from the East region. He says inshore, tarpon on the minnows in the St. Lucie Inlet, live mullet drifted on the tide, or the albino shad, 4-inch split tail shad with a 3/8 ounce jig head is going to work for the poon. And then offshore, blackfin tunas, kingfish, dolphin in 150 to 200 feet of water off Sloan's Curve. Live sardines, pilchards, or goggle eyes drifted, or you could even fish them under a kite, Brie.
Fish them under a kite.
Yeah, man.
Oh, the funnest fishing right there.
Yep.
All right, Floridians, we made it through the entire state, and we're ready to celebrate with you, hopefully on the water this weekend. But stay hooked, and we will tell you what we're catching next week right here on the Florida
Insider Fishing Report.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Why is Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser! Left flat as well, 2 fish! They're everywhere! Right flat teaser as well! Left flat, right flat teaser!
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
All right, next week we are talking permit, so make sure to tune in. And also next week, I will be well into my 30s.
Yes, you will. Brie, we got a birthday sash
ahead,
for you
Dave.
here.
Oh no,
Oh,
he's
this first.
This first.
Oh, look at that.
Get that
What's
right?
it say?
Had it.
Class of 90, class of 30.
I didn't do a very good job. There you go.
Oh, this is, I get two.
Look, another cake.
2 cakes
You
for the
know
price
what
of
else
one.
we
What's that
have?
for?
Me.
Our Steadicam
George.
photographer. His
Yes.
birthday is on the 5th. So George, look, we got a cake for Georgie. So guess what? We're all gonna blow George's candles out so we can spit on his cake.
I'll do that.
No, we shouldn't do that.
We're gonna
because
let George is gonna blow
Can
him
I
out.
do it because mine aren't lit?
Blow his out. Make a wish for you and George.
Oh, we got in there.
George,
We got
they
in
got
there. He'll be 32. I'll be 30.
Happy
Thank you guys for
birthday.
tuning in.
Thanks
Happy
for
birthday,
coming in,
America.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
America, happy birthday.